The funniest and least obvious part of Al Green's cane-shaking protest of Trump's speech on Tuesday night was actually his tie. If you look closely, it was the text of the Constitution. Yes, constitutional fidelity was the apparent motivator for this outburst. If only he would have pointed at his favorite parts for which he and his party supposedly stand. First Amendment? No. The whole point of his stunt was his opposition must shut up. Second Amendment? No. He'd make the cane itself an assault weapon reserved for government use only. A federal government limited to its defined roles? No. He was shouting about Medicaid, a word that notably appears nowhere among the many others on his neckwear. But to presume motive for Greene is to give him too much credit for forethought by his own explanation, because the second funniest part of his outburst is the joke of his description of events afterward. Al Greene is now telling his side of the story and expects you to believe that none of that was planned shenanigans. See, he was just an old man out for a walk one day when he just spontaneously decided to start shaking his cane and shouting at the sky.
My intentionality was to walk out. I gathered my coat, I had my cane, and I was going to make my departure. I didn't go to do what I did. I was caught up in the moment, and I turned and I said to him, "You don't have a mandate to cut Medicaid."
Yeah, strange that this spontaneous moment he was having extended for several moments, actually, and through several reminders and opportunities to end the interruption and sit down.
Mr. Greene, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat.
And apparently it was spontaneous, but also directly prompted, as in Al Greene didn't plan to take this action. He was forced to by Trump's action. See, Al Greene was not uncivil. He was just responding to Trump's own incivility during the speech.
But that incivility was in direct response to the president's incivility as it relates to the way he referred to members of Congress as lunatics and as it relates to his behavior.
Yeah, Greene's stunt was not in response to Trump's use of the word lunatics. Trump didn't say that until an hour later, and strictly speaking, he wasn't even talking about members of Congress when he did. He was talking about local prosecutors who go easy on criminals, though, in fairness, he did wave his finger to imply the lunacy is shared.
Our justice system has been turned upside down by radical left lunatics,
which Al Greene demonstrated beforehand, not afterward, so it was not a response scenario. Regardless, civility in the content of the speech is not the point. Who has the right to speak in that moment is. Trump is the speaker, Al Greene is not. That's why there's an official response from the Democrat Party and infinite opportunities with reporters after the speech, which Al Greene is now taking. Okay, well, even if Greene wasn't technically responding as described, his incivility is just Democrat different, of course, because his incivility is a righteous incivility.
His behavior, his incivility. I responded today with incivility, but it was a righteous incivility.
Well, as long as the crime was righteous, then case dismissed. What a genius justice system that is. Righteous according to whom? The guy who committed the crime? Wow, how nicely convenient for him. Well, sure, I killed a guy in cold blood, but it was a righteous murder. And sure, I took his wallet, but it was a righteous theft. Now, obviously, heckling is not a crime on that level, but the point is, if something is wrong for its own sake, calling it righteous does not make it so. And it's not as though Al Greene extends such lenience to others anyway. If Trump declared his presidency righteous, would Al Greene forgive him? No, of course not. He's already working on a new round of impeachment articles for things he can't even explain.
You're seriously considering introducing articles of impeachment?
I am absolutely going to do it. This level of incivility emanating from the presidency, much of it in policy, is something we cannot tolerate.
And the articles would be based on his speech to the joint session?
The articles will be based upon things that have already occurred, not in an indirect sense, but not directly based on that. What he said to the members and to the senator was unacceptable. Then that's incivility.
Wow, his arguments are a lot more coherent when you can't even hear him as he's shouting into the abyss. The cane pumping was a lot more clear, actually. Me angry, you shut up. Just a little chest pounding would have really punctuated the point. And maybe something about a lower car insurance rate with Geico. The resemblance is very close. But what can you really expect from a spontaneous protest and a spontaneous impeachment? Coherence? Come on. The righteous emotion of the moment doesn't work that way. May only the shrillest shrieker win. So Democrats resorted to even more spontaneity on Thursday in response to Al Green's censure on the House floor. Somehow a song broke out, like this is now a high school musical with even worse production value. And the censure, as in formal condemnation, is absolutely necessary. This is not about pearl clutching. This is about House function. Is this a venue of just yelling whenever you feel upset, so pathetic it can't even follow the indoor voice rules of a daycare? Or is this a venue with procedure to settle disputes fairly? If this sort of sustained, non-compliant outburst is acceptable, Congress becomes a clown show. Or maybe there will just be even more makeup and even bigger wigs and even honkier noses on the already existing clown show. I get that point, and Al Green makes it, hey, I didn't start the clownery. I'm just honking along.
I remember during a Biden State of the Union, Marjorie Taylor-Greene screaming at him. But that didn't happen to her. She wasn't censured. So how do you deal with things like that?
I'm a son of the segregated South. You see, you're experiencing the transparency now of invidious discrimination in the House of Representatives.
Well, color is not the only distinction here. Behavior is another one. Yes, Marjorie Taylor-Greene has heckled. Yes, where disruption happens, it should be disciplined. But look at the tape. Marjorie Taylor-Greene briefly shouted, which I agree is cringe and disruptive and shouldn't happen. But she didn't ignore the speaker's instructions to stop. Al Green did many times over the span of a minute and a half.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House and to cease any further disruptions. That's your warning. Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order to the joint session.
It doesn't mean one is fine and the other isn't. It means they were different in degree, and that's why Al Green was the first member of Congress ever ejected from a State of the Union speech, or in this case, a presidential address to a joint session. But of course, if one disruption is righteously justified, then so is the next one, and therein lies the problem. So when Speaker Johnson called Al Green into the well to hear the reading of his censure, about a dozen other Democrats joined him and started singing a song in what Al Green says was yet another totally unplanned, spontaneous gesture.
I went and I started to sing We Shall Overcome. I didn't go there planning to sing We Shall Overcome. I was just inspired by the moment to take a stand.
Will Representative Green present himself to the well? The House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker. The House has come to order. The House has come to order. The House has come to order. Clear the well, please. Clear the well. The House has to continue its business. The House will stand in recess, subject to the call of the chair.
And this is the problem with shame-based discipline, which is all censure is, just a formal declaration of shame. But shame doesn't work on the shameless. But maybe there are at least some scraps of shame to collect, because in the vote, the censure passed 224 to 198, with 10 Democrats voting in favor. And that is an indictment on the state of our country. Members of Congress can't even agree on basic rules of procedure anymore. Or is it undeniable reason for optimism? Wow, 10 Democrats actually said, okay, that's it. That's the line. You finally cringed out too far this time. It is shocking to see that anybody in that party still believes in lines at all. Law professor Jonathan Turley said the majority of congressional Democrats otherwise approving of Al Green's conduct have reduced themselves from legislators to graffiti artists, which is a totally absurd statement. There's no artistry involved here, and far more beauty in a drug overdose beneath a brightly colored underpass spray paint tag. Though, to be fair, Democrats are very proficient in both mediums, actually, congressional embarrassment and urban decay. And it's so bad that even the brain damaged can see it. This week, in response to these stunts, Senator John Fetterman said that he regrets that his party has become a metaphorical car alarm in a parking lot. It's loud, it's obnoxious, and nobody cares, but nobody can figure out how to turn it off either. So was it a stroke of brilliance for Fetterman? Maybe. Or maybe to his point, this is a party detaching itself so far from any sanity, norms, or sense that even the mentally diminished among us become poetic by comparison. All I know is we need a Fetterman v. Green debate to determine the direction of the party. Which ogre will it be, Democrats? The caveman rabble-rouser or the skinhead philosopher? There are no great answers here, and that's really the point. In that context, it kind of makes sense that the best option really was just yelling at the sky. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on X, that is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams, those live on Wednesday and Sunday nights. Looking forward to it. Goodbye. Hey, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, that means you probably found some value in the video. If you found some value in the video, please consider supporting my material. You can do that one time or recurring for as little as $1 a month. It not only helps me sustain, but it helps me pay the people who make my videos possible. Linked in the description for you, mattchristiansenmedia.com/support. Thanks for listening.